Welcome to another edition of Guidance for the Soul Live. Unplugged, unwound. That's where we usually go. When I step into the spotlight, I'm often asked, how do you bring through the guidance from a soul level understanding? It's because I'm condemned by society for doing the work that I did. Okay, I'm going to talk about the nature of why I took a break from a lot of the soul session stuff that would have normally come across the screen in the last couple of weeks. It was literally me dealing with those visions of hatred from other souls on a different level of understanding because of the nature of what I was working with, which in essence was not to challenge their belief sets, because I don't even know who it was. To be honest, I was getting names of certain souls who don't like my stuff. But it is that nature of when we go to the soul level understanding. I'm not here to hold your hand through this process, right? That's your soul. Your soul holds your hand through the process, and whatever guidance that comes through is gonna come through, whether you like it or not. I'm not here to please all souls. I went on a recovery of my faith, is where many start to go. Some people look for those visions of religious institutions, and others are going to say, no, that's not for me. I was in that place myself. And part of me was going, why did I go on this journey to guidance if I'm just going to repeat the same stuff that others do from their Bibles? And that's not the nature of it. Okay, so it's going to unwind your vision in many ways, right? Not necessarily. If you have a soul session, your own soul comes through for you and can guide you to a better place of wonder and amazement and heavenly realms, right? This is about unwinding my own soul on the screen for people who want to know why I do what I do. I couldn't even figure out why I felt like I had to go back into the past, which was my vision of soul searching. I had to go back because I heard a message about a book that I knew was strong, and I posted a link on Facebook for my family and friends for the most part. And for those of you who are joining, I want to say thank you very much for joining me. This is not about a detailed analysis of who I am or where I'm coming from. But what I'm saying to you is that in my heart, I wish us all peace. I want all faiths to see their loving souls coming together. That's the guidance that I would bring through. If I was with the faiths, I would say, sit me in a table with somebody and let me show you where you guys reside. That's the nature of who I am. I'm often the mediator between souls, believe it or not. And in this instance, it was a debate between who is and isn't of faith. Faith doesn't mean organized religion. It can be anything. I have faith in souls. I have faith in the vision of all, because I know that vision well. We all participate in the vision of all, whether or not we want to or not, even if we don't believe in that vision. And that's okay. If you're in the, I just want to be on my own, 2 feet, this is where a lot of souls will start to say, oh, you have to go do your work. No, you don't. You don't have to go do any soul searching to get a soul session. Okay? I was bringing through guidance for people who don't even sit with me at this point, because there's a reason their guidance is coming through. So the candelabra, it's like candelabras are coming towards me. Some people I know are in that method of, I visit those realms of ghost. Others will say it's of the heavenly realms. It can be. A lot of it is actually the heavenly realms. We reside on various levels of understanding. And I want you to understand the difference between hearing from your family tree versus the hellish realm vision that may have got planted in the mindset of someone else. So do I have to deal with those visions who have been conditioned to believe that there is actually a vibration called hell. That would be your own vibration in which you reside, basically creating havoc for not only yourself, but for someone else. I can tell you what it feels like because I've created that in my own vision, but I don't call it that. I'm not sending people there. That's just me working out my relationship issues or dealing with societal impact visions that aren't necessarily the most pleasant. Okay? Shaman of the world will understand that vision of vibration and frequency. So I get told when there's a density in the vibration of who I am. I get told when there is someone else who's vibrating in a energy level that is denser than who I am. I can feel it. That's my soul giving me the vibration of it. I embodied my soul, so I'm not directly impacted by the vibration, but I can feel it for the most part because my soul does that vision for me very well. Sometimes I do get hit by those energy vibes of other souls. Other times, we're here to talk loud and proud as guides, okay? That's the nature of most of us who embody the vision of I'm of light. And others will say, no, you're in the dark because you said something bad about somebody. No, this is about the reality of unwinding those visions of we all don't vibrate in the beauty of only good as a subjective determination. Those souls' visions that want to come through will come through whether they are deemed to be good or not based on where you lie in your heart. If you understand the nature of all, you understand we're creating this beautiful place wherever we reside. It's about our perceptive abilities and who gets to come through next time on Channel for the Soul. Christian Slater's coming through in his vision for the most part. I've seen him, I've heard him, right? I experience the celebrities in many ways that I bring across the screen. Not all of them, believe it or not, but in my dream state, they do indeed have some impact sometimes. And that's where people are going to get a little frustrated because they're going to be like, that's what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear another celebrity, right? I still deal with those hearts of those who are trying to get their messages across. Please don't align with John Travolta. So I've been hearing about this vision of the space case or the space people. Others are going to want to know what that. How many people are now starting to believe those visions of the, UFOs or ETs? Okay, these are not the words of wisdom for many because in essence, it can be a turnoff to some. How many people are looking at the news and going, oh, well, that doesn't align with my beliefs, so I think it's fake. Our own government is starting to release records of it because it's now being deemed appropriate for us to start expanding that vision. Okay? I'm not in that vision of space race, but that's why we're seeing more and more of it. More and more of our souls are interested in traveling to those far away destinations. And in essence, the technology that we create here is often less than what they have access to. And that's the nature of creating beautiful visions of space race. Who's going to get to Mars first, right? And how do they get there? Well, if you want to know that, check in for another edition of Channel for the Soul on Sunday, right? I will not be able to be doing any visions next week. I will be out of town on vacation. My own source of wisdom is going to say, congratulations on showing up at the right time, the right place, the right signature story. We're going to talk about those who have a signature attached to their name. This is what we all do. We attract those visions who are interested in hearing about the frequency and vibration in which they align themselves with or fall into. Can you fall into the vibration of an unhealthy affair or a relationship that's not for you? That's where some people reside. It is not about always pointing it out on the screen. This is the nature of those who assume that these relationships that people create are somehow bad or evil. We're going to start unwinding that vision of who gets to determine what a soul is or isn't about to do. Seriously, I could tell you the strength of my soul. And I'm telling you right now, as a soul who's gone through so many different, it's like incarnations, I don't align with many who are in that vision of you're evil because you're doing the work of God, right? God is a word that has been passed down through various visions in so many different ways and so many different ideas around it that I'm really not going to touch that aspect. I have put forth the vision of those who want to go to the next level of understanding might want to do some research on their own. I could align with those who are more into the mystic side of life. It opens your eyes to the nature of a lot of faiths in the organized sense. Okay? But it's not about saying that there's no credence behind it. It's just an understanding that those visions of love are strong. So sometimes I hear those visions of loved ones in my heart who are saying, please don't burst the bubble of the minds of those who watch me. And then I hear the visions of those who say, please align yourself with this person in my heart so they can rise to that level of understanding that you indeed rise to. It's understood by many that we are in a period of transformation, not only on an individual level, but on societal levels as well. This is the nature of who we are. But this is a bigger change in the minds of many because of the nature of the religious aspirations. We'll think of it as a end of days in some ways if they align with that kind of vision. It is a transformation in the consciousness of many. Most faiths, if they are indeed still utilizing the traditional tools that they were handed, would understand why this is the troubled times in their minds. It's not. So hopefully those of significant power will stop shaming others for their religious belief. It's not about shaming. This is about saying the messages that need to be said. Those in power in those faiths are going to have to start releasing those visions of what they themselves know to be true and stop hiding the visions that they started with. What visions they use. That means, in essence, they then start to see the beauty of their own faith as it is reflected to them in other faiths as well. They all align together, in essence. They just don't realize it yet. Many who are in those upper echelons have indeed done the research of their soul's vision of historical significance, unless they don't want to know. Okay, that's where many will reside. They don't want to know the historical origins of their species either. That's another vision for another time. But in this moment, what I'm going to say is that had I known, in essence, it was so funny. What I was doing was going back to foundational research that I had done years ago in this process of exploring various tools of understanding, and everything that I used has come full circle for me. And it's beautiful. And that's where we're coming to in this transition period in society. There's going to be a full circle of understanding about the nature of, well, not death, because we understand that's not really accurate, but it's the rebirthing of society that we're actually going through, believe it or not. We do it on an individual level, and it is reflected in the outer. So we have to decide who's with us or not. We're all here. And that's where this vision of it's going to be tumultuous can arise. How do we make it so that the next few years are not tumultuous? It's our perspective on what's happening and for what reason. Now, those who are aligning with those violent tendencies in their minds might want to take stock and say, let's hold that vision in, right? It's not always about a soul session will guide you to what is or isn't violent for a soul. Some people will say just someone saying something out loud is violent. Another person will say no, that it would have to be, more physical enlightenment. Getting angry isn't always a bad thing, and we're going to talk about that. People will always say you're not supposed to get angry. This is an occult vision, to be honest, because it would be a repression of energy and emotion, and that can stick in your stomach, cause a soul to climb into that vision of I'm depressed because I'm not able to express my vision. We're supposed to express it. It's how we do it. Okay? And what happens when we fall into that trap of I'm angry and I need to express? Okay? And on one hand, the guides would say, oh yeah, you don't want to sit there and cause more problems. And then on the other hand, you're looking at yourself going, but wait a minute. I need to express. Turn the anger into a soul session with your hearts. That's what happens when you guys start to connect with your own souls. You'll start to get your information handed to you about what is and isn't appropriate. So even while I post all these posts with all these beautiful guidance messages, those are literally me tapping in. Sometimes they're for me, and I know that they will help others because they are indeed very much in alignment with, if I'm going through stuff, others are as well. It doesn't mean you're going through any of the same kinds of issues. You could be. I'm having to let people go. Sometimes the guides that I hear in my heart versus my mind can get a little confusing. That might be because of where I'm at in one moment or one realm versus another. I reside in many levels of understanding, and that can be a little tricky. That's the beauty of combining with souls, aligning in one vision of, say, I'm just going to send out good vibes for everybody, and then I will go in and I will deal with my heart in other ways. That's the strength of souls who come to the nature of guidance. We usually don't go out and lash out at other people. We tend to come in and say, what did I see, or what did I say, or what's going on, and how do I deal with this anger? If I'm feeling anger towards somebody, is it in the moment or is it a long burning anger? I've had to deal with that vision. I've had to deal with the vision of I'm not even angry at somebody, but I'm getting the message that I need to let them go. That's how badass my guidance could be, because everyone assumes that everyone is working with the same kind of information. Where do you want to go? Do you want to be one of those people where we just rise in vibration? Maybe your career, maybe your everything is beautiful. For me, I'm trying to be the real deal for everybody. I can't be the real deal for everybody. So my guidance isn't going to align for those of you that think it's all about the positive mindset. That's not going to be the reality for most people. Most people can't get their hearts to that position. And indeed, their own soul might say, this is not a good place for them. I am one of those souls. I know that's not the way for me, because in essence, I can put a pretty picture on something that's not so pretty, but it may still be something not right for me. Okay, that's how I know something's not right for me. This is where that discordance can be coming in, right? Something is not going to align with you. You're going to feel it. And you say, it doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it's not for me. Even if my family tells me it's for me, it's not for me. Sometimes I have to let go of people, and others are coming through saying, oh, wait a minute, but this is your family tree member or something. And in my vision, I'm like, my soul knows what's best for me. I don't have to sit there and reside in, in a chat room with somebody, to know that there's anger being created from a different level of understanding. That's the strength. You get such tailored guidance sometimes that it can be a little tricky when others want that on the spot. Where do I go next? Okay? That's the nature of it. Okay? So this is just a little shout out to all those souls who want their soul sessions again. And I would say believe in the Christ soul as much as you can. It's still valid. It's not about playing favorites. So for me, I have visions of the Christ soul as a process, and those who made that vision, made that trek, made that level of understanding. That was what was given to me. What I didn't really align with was the fact that it was one soul name in essence. And it doesn't really matter because we're all guided in this vision of all. But for me, there was this vision of it's going to bring back visions of one faith or only certain faiths versus those who did those visions outside of the vision of faith in a certain religion. It's not always like that now. A lot of the spiritual mindsets will also call upon that vision of Christ in their heart, knowing it's an enlightened master, right? Jesus Christ. That's another vision of one of those beings of love and light. Energy orbs also come into the picture when you talk about those visions of enlightened masters. And those are those kinds of souls that people are going to say, do you experience the orbs? I do not experience the orbs as of yet. I embodied my soul, so I don't rely on enlightened masters for the most part. I can get to their hearts with my own soul. I'm still residing in that vision of all. And most will not understand the difference between soul embodiment and the lost art of, well, there's all these lost arts. Okay. This is the nature of where we go. So Sandra Day O'Connor is another heart soul that says, I was doing the right work when I was on the vision of societal impact based on where we were in the moment with either the Trump agenda or the Republican agenda or now the Biden agenda or the Democratic agenda. They're all the same. They don't know it, but they're all vibrating in that vision of it. They each have their own vision of faith and have placed their visions of faith in the hands of the government as we see fit. Okay, this is the nature that many start to understand. It's not about us denying those visions of love. She would say, I want my faith back. She remembers being told that her faith was to be separate. But in essence, nobody loses their faith when they go into the career field of church or of, government political ideologies. Some people may not have those visions in their heart for the most part. It's going to start to align with those souls who are more in alignment with the justice system needs to be overhauled. And she's in full alignment. But if you're not in the vision of Sandra Day O'Connor as being an authority in one sense, you wouldn't necessarily understand that vision. Her character flaw in her mind was one of, I didn't do enough to disregard the justice system, focus on her faith. In essence, in her mind, she felt like she should have focused more on her faith in her immediate path versus the past of child. So as a child, in her mind, she was like, I was much more in tune with who I really was. And then I got in that mindset conditioning that the law was to be separate at all cost. But it can't be because it resides in our hearts. The laws of the land are not the same as the laws that we abide by on those levels of instruction into how to rise to our hearts, right? It's an aspect of it. It combines with those visions of those who say, let's make it so we can honor all, in essence, in a place of love for no matter who walks through my courtroom. How do I disconnect from those souls who go to that level of understanding and say, I love everyone who comes into my courtroom, whether they did the time or not, right? Or the crime. But it's not about crimes from her perspective. She sees it as a crime. She sees the crime being done in many ways in the minds of many who are aligning with various visions of faith without seeing the big picture about why we're trying to create more visions of love for all in this country versus the boundless spirit of individuality. So we're in that vision of boundless individuality. We're creating the visions of unequal, right? We're supposed to be aligning with those visions of equality for all of us, but in essence, we're still thinking it's about the individual pursuit of happiness. And yet, when I try my hand alone, do I do that vision well? You see, in her mind, my vision is to align with those who follow the law. That's one of my kind of guide books, right? Because I don't look to any other source of how to be in this country or this state, right? Because we all have different laws. This world, I go to another country, I better learn what the laws are, or I could get in some serious trouble. And she says the law is there to guide those of us who want to create a system in which we can abide by the law, enjoy our lives as much as possible, enlighten ourselves to the beauty of it, keeping others safe when it is needed, hoping for a better future where the laws don't always align with those who are treated as equal in the minds of many, but who they themselves know are not for various reasons. This is not about saying there's a disconnect between law and order, but in essence, there is definitely a disconnect between the love of soul and the guidance of it. Okay? Guidance from a soul level perspective is not just about those visions of me bringing forth your vision of truth. Truth is what I always aim for. And she says it's unbiased opinion from the majority of the people on the bench. They are residing in that vision of unbiased opinion in their hearts. The minds, of course, have their own biases, and they are playing their cards very well. She is saying the Republican side of the soul, in essence, is not about saying there's a divisive mark on a soul level, but it is one of those creative visions of she sees the past as it was, plants the seeds for a future of just in time. There's going to be a remarkable beauty coming on the screen, understanding that the Sandra Day O'Connor vision has been deemed less than just because in this particular incarnation, this spiritual alignment, she was of plenty. She says, I was of plenty of disagreement with the visions of Republicans in my heart. But she's like, I tried to do the best that I could to be as unbiased as possible when it came to the Joseph and Jesus energy. So for her, in her mind, she says, I never allowed my faith or my beliefs to enter into the picture as much as possible, trying to imagine a future where those citizens who are not aligned with that vision do not get served in that courtroom. So in her heart, she says, as a witness to the religious biases that I see being played out on the screen, right? It's the TV and news, right? People are saying that religion is being left behind. It is in transition just like every other vision on this planet. It is a global phenomenon. We are all uniting in the vision of love. The biases that I may have held in my own heart as a guide, I will come through, I will say, it was never about being against it. It was about saying, why don't they see what we all see? And that's the nature of it. It's not about saying, please don't align with faith. Please align with your faith. Lift yourselves up. Honor your hearts, your visions, your guidance, your soul. And potentially you might want to think, if I'm holding any energy work towards another vision of religion, I need to go do some research. Because you're going to sit there and understand why, as a soul, she's coming through saying, I didn't allow the faith to affect me when I did my career decisions. But she sees that vision being overhauled, where faith is starting to play into the picture of society more and more. And it's not about the faith of one faith, but it's about the nature that one faith is getting like prejudicial treatment. Okay? You cannot be for one faith and not the others in the spirit of soul embodiment. It's a beautiful expression. You won't be able to align with just one faith for the most part, right? You can, if that's what your soul claims that you are to do, right? I get to do whatever I want, right? I love being of no faith. And it's not no faith. It's like I have faith in myself and my soul and in the beauty of all. And the visions that I've always held have lifted me up to that nature of looking very kind upon those who are still in the mindset of, I can't let go of certain ideas, because if I did, where would I go for my heart? This is the nature of love for our souls, visions of connecting with all those souls wherever they reside, honoring their hearts and telling them, you did good. You made it. You're here. You're having a great time. That's what we want for the majority of the people. Let's have a great time. We're past this vision of destruction in our hearts. We're past this point of projecting evil onto others. That's the nature of where we go. When you come down the path of soul, you start to unwind those visions of what those words actually mean. They're given to us to tell us how to be, without the understanding that those visions were changed along the route of discovery. And this is the nature of where we are. We're in this beautiful time where a lot of our souls are not out hurting people, killing people, in the method of slave ownership even. Where do we reside on the plane of I'm going to hurt somebody physically, right? Especially. And that's the nature. Our laws are taking those visions into account, so we don't have to worry about so much and say, let's enjoy the world and the beauty of it. A lot of us are feeling the destructive natures of other countries. Our country has its own vision of destruction it's going through. But the vision of birth is there. That's the nature. We are rebirthing this nation, people. Literally a rebirthing. Whether you want to align with that vision or not, it comes on strong, fast, furious, right? Not furious. Don't be furious with the changes you see. It could be that in the moment, people need to rise up and say, I'm not being treated as equal. That's a vision that's being played out in the minds of many. There are those visions happening all over the world. What we're seeing here is the instigation of that vision of triumph for those souls who stand up, for those who are being oppressed in their own visions, right? I could unwind someone's vision, but if they're actually being held to a lower standard, this is where people are getting mixed up. They're assuming that everyone's being treated the same. That's not the case. Do I let myself fall victim to it, or is it just something that happens on such a routine basis for so many people that we're finally saying enough's enough? Let's give everybody back their own hearts and say this is not about telling people they need to pull their bootstraps up. That's not the way to go. We go in and we look and say, what's the reality of my life? My vision. Did I do bad by somebody? If I didn't, okay. Some people are here to shout out, yay, I didn't hurt anybody. Others don't realize it in their minds. Others don't even realize that they're holding those biases in their hearts, right? It's not in the hearts for the most part. There are some people that are holding that in their hearts. But the majority of it, it's the disconnect between the heart and the mind that's going on. So, this is where that justice vision of Sandra Day O'Connor comes through strong and says she's going to let you guys talk. At some point, you're going to be able to have discussions with her about the visions of communicating with her and the other sources of wisdom. You can ask questions of their hearts, and she will bring through the vision for those who are interested in hearing from their idols of worship, right? Many are interested in hearing in those visions of, religious figures or whatnot. But for those of you that are like, what would this soul that I love so much say to us now in that vision of light, right? And that's where some people get all that visions of, ooh, this is going to be good, or goosebumps. She's going to let me talk to the soul of Sandra Day O'Connor. If you have that vision of strength, and you have that vision of honoring of their hearts, and you have that vision of guidance, and you have that vision of, I'm honestly curious, do they feel beautiful when they cross? If they held, it's like they held somebody else's hand. So you see, when I do the vision of soul embodiment, that's the nature of my soul connecting to all souls. Okay? I do get my own soul. There's a beautiful vision I hold for myself. And this is one of those visions I will be guiding certain people on how to come into more of a direct connection with their own soul. It is so strong, people, and it's not talked about in a lot of ways for whatever reason in like the social media circles about soul embodiment. It can be done very simply if you look to another soul, right? It's not about doing that vision, but it can happen overnight for some people, the spontaneous expression of soul. I had it happen to me in a vision that was almost like a death. It felt like a death of that part of me. Okay, that was innocent, and it's not pure. I never felt like I was pure. It was pure love. Some people get that expression from their soul, and that's the beauty of it. So I want to thank you guys for this journey down memory lane. I can tell you that some of the things that happen are beautiful, and others would say that's not a good thing for me. But it's true. I have my memories. A lot of my memories of, quote, painful things get erased. The things of beauty will often come back to me. And sometimes those other things I reinforce if I'm letting other people bring me back into those visions. This is why we're saying those visions are not the same. You're recreating something in your minds that's not actually the way it was. So we tend to say to people on a soul level, It's not about trying to deny the heart its pain and suffering. And that's where she went as a judge. She's like, oh, I sent people to prison. I did all kinds of things. And she says, I had to adjust that vision. I'm not going to send any more people to prison in her mind. The next go round, she's decided she's going to reincarnate in a different level of understanding. And that's the nature of light. No more prisons for just certain characters. Okay. Gandhi, the enlightened being of love, who we all know as that, right? He's like, my vision is being demonized by certain people. I rose to another level of love, and my heart's being honored in the spiritual circles, even though in my heart I feel like I made it. And that's the nature of rising and hearing your soul. You don't always please everybody around you. You tend to want to make those changes in the world that are seen as not right for all, which would be in alignment of oppression and depression. He said I had to suffer for a lot of those years when people were labeling me as, this and that. They were labeling him various things, but he was revered in his heart. And he still feels it. He still feels the reverence for a lot of souls. And he says, I would have been the first one out on the streets protesting during a lot of the race riots. And he said those riots were justifiably peaceful for the most part. In essence, they're doing the right thing by keeping the rioting to a minimum. It doesn't mean that it's not to be done. He says it's just that vision allows them to express their anger without destruction. So the destruction is in the vision itself, because it's saying to people, we matter, we count, we want to be heard. And there are those visions of destruction that can come through in that vision, but that's not his guidance. His guidance would say, I was of the peaceful protest, and we still got our vision heard for the most part. He said, I knew I wasn't going to be able to align with everybody. And that's where his guidance would come through for me. Because in essence, it is incredibly difficult to do societal impact vision sometimes. If I know that certain aspects of the vision will most likely align with a certain party member, and others are like, oh no, she does both sides. But people still get that vision sometimes of, I don't want to hear from Rush Limbaugh. I've been told that that vision is going to come through at some point, and that vision is strong. It is a Native American soul that knows that my vision does not only go to those who have passed. I do bring through those visions of those souls who still live, and I still bring through the beauty of love for all souls. If you indeed want your own soul session, please contact me at my website, BrendaGervais.com. And at this point in time and at this juncture, we're going to say thank you for watching and have a beautiful, beautiful evening.